Welcome head coach Jeremy Pruitt's Monday press conference. Coach will start us off with a quick opening statement. Please raise your hands for questions.
You know, reviewing the game from Saturday, offensively, there was a lot of positives in the offensive line. Probably the best that we've been able to run the football against a quality opponent in some time. Lots of plays that were out there. I really felt like our running backs done a really nice job. Making guys miss, finishing runs off. Probably left a few plays out there. We broke some balls down the field and didn't finish at wide receiver, where we had a chance maybe if we finished on a block down there that could have went all the way to the end zone. In the throw game, had an opportunity to create some explosive plays early, missed some during the game. If you look at it as a whole, you know, we scored one offensive touchdown in regulation, had several opportunities to create some explosive plays, and we didn't. We've got to be able to do that. Got the ball in the red area a couple of times, come away with field goals. Defensively, to me, there was lots of improvement. And it's going to continue to be that way based off the players that we have. They're going to continue to gain experience, and each week you'll probably see a couple of younger guys that'll play each more as the weeks go on. You know, still are not forcing any turnovers. It's one of the big things. In the last 2 weeks, we forced one turnover. You know, I said this early on in the season, or early on in the year, that we really need to take care of the football offensively, and we've got to be opportunistic on defense, and we've not done that in either game. You know, the one disappointing thing to me defensively is you play for 60 minutes and give up one touchdown, and then it goes into overtime, and we give up two in overtime periods. So got to figure out that and get it fixed. You know, got to create a little more depth up front into linebacker position as we move forward. And we got some guys that we're working there, and they're getting closer and closer. I really thought our snappers and holders and kickers done a nice job. They continue to do that. You know, for 2 weeks in a row, I feel like we've created an advantage in the kicking game by changing the field, you know, and kickoffs, and our punting game. So we got to continue to do that. When you look at UTC this week, I'm very familiar with these guys, especially their offense and defensive coordinators. Known both guys for several years. They really do a fantastic job. I'm familiar with the conference that they play in. You look at them; they're very well coached. Got good players at all three levels on the defensive side of the ball. Got a quarterback's a big guy that can spin the ball out there, can hurt you in the run game. What they do offensively is there's a lot of quarterback run element to it. They put a lot on the quarterback. They got big guys up front. They got returning running backs and a couple of good wide receivers out there. Defensively, you know, got some guys up front, two safeties that are preseason all-conference for their conference, returning inside linebacker that had 98 tackles last year. So, you know, these guys are used to winning. I've seen them play. Last, I guess, couple of years ago, my son played at Jacksonville State, and I saw it firsthand. These guys get after it pretty good. They played Jacksonville State last week. And got after those guys pretty good. So we've got lots of things that we can fix. I feel like when you look at where our team was at the first week and how much we improved from week 1 to week 2, that's what we got to do. I've said it before, we've got a young, inexperienced team in a lot of positions. And to me, that's the type of improvement that we've got to make from 1 week to the next, and we've got to continue to do that this week. How did we do that? To me, it's the effort that we gave at practice. You know, I've said all along, we've had a really good camp, okay? And the difference in the first 2 games has been turning the football over and not getting turnovers, bottom line. You know, we knew we were going to make some mistakes on defense. There's no secret there. I think one thing that we did this past week is we called the game more aggressively on defense, which allowed our guys to play more aggressive. Hey, did we make mistakes? Sure we did. But we made them moving forward instead of setting back on our heels. And that's something that we can build on going forward. You know, offensively, we just got to be more consistent. We've got to be more consistent up front. Got to be more consistent at every position, and that's what everybody in our program's working on. You know, you find out a lot about yourself and who you are in tough times, you know. And, you know, obviously the first two games ain't went the way anybody around here wants it to go, right? But those games are over with. All you can do from them is learn from them, all right, and take the lessons that you learned, the good and the bad, okay, and move forward. And, you know, the real character, who you are, kind of shows up in these times. And I like the people in our program. I've said it all along. I like this team. And I don't believe that the leadership in our program is going to waver one bit. And we're going to continue to work hard. We have tremendous opportunities this week, okay, and moving forward for this year. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Jeremy, sorry about that. Jeremy, what's holding Jared back from being the quarterback you want to see on game day?
Well, I don't think anything's holding Jarrett back. You know, hey, let me tell you, Jarrett Garantano has practiced extremely well, okay, from spring to fall camp, okay, all right, and has made some really nice plays in both games, okay. Jarrett will tell you, just like I'll tell you, we all, myself included, everybody's got to raise their standard and expectations in this program, okay, and be a little more consistent. That's everybody. He's no different than anybody else.
Jimmy, then Brent, Steve.
Jeremy, did Garantano, did he hurt his hand or wrist and have an MRI yesterday?
Yeah, he got his hand hit in the first quarter on the helmet. So, but yeah, he'll be fine this week.
Brent.
Coach, how do you help Jared, or do you need to help Jared more in terms of seeing the field, managing the offense? You know, after seeing him in this offense for 2 weeks, not only what does he need to do, but what can you guys do to maybe help him manage through this offense as he grows?
I think one thing is we've had some pretty nice pockets most of the time, but there was a few times on Saturday when they rushed 4 guys that we had one guy get beat. That really collapsed the pocket, and there's no time to throw the ball away. You know, one time we've got a really nice drive going, you know, in the second quarter there, and ball's on like the 30-yard line. It's 1st and 10. We're going to take a play-action shot, and as soon as we turn around, we get a sack, and then we try to throw the ball away and get an intentional grounding, you know. So we've got to be more consistent up front. You know, I think a lot of it from playing the quarterback position is getting your eyes on the right spot, moving pretty fast through your progressions, have a timing mechanism. And let me tell you, he's done a lot of really nice things, okay? All right? But so is a lot of people in our program, right? But, you know, there's not much difference in winning and losing, okay? If you look at Saturday's game, all right, there's probably 82 plays on offense and right there, right about that on defense. You never know when the play is going to present itself that could decide the outcome of the game, okay? So that's why you try to create the right habits at practice, and you practice it till you don't get it wrong, you know? But that's what everybody in our program's got to do, including him.
Rob, then Stephen Patrick.
Coach, you talked last week about two freshmen outside line actually making plays on the field in practice. It's like Crouch played more, Roman played for the first time. What do you think about those guys we saw on the field?
You know, these guys are going to continue to improve. We've got lots of young guys in our program that maybe wasn't ready to play the first game, okay? Might not be ready to play the second game, but as we go, and so we had some guys that played that wasn't ready in the first game or second game, but we had to play them, if that makes sense. So that's kind of where we're at as a program, right? There's lots of opportunity here, and we'll continue to play some young guys. We'll play more and more guys as the year goes. But you know, there's a little bit that comes with growing as a football player. All these guys that we signed in this last year's class, I think all of them have lots of potential to be really good football players. But every one of them were better players their senior year in high school than they were their freshman year in high school. And that'll be the same way at Tennessee. They're going to continue to grow, develop, improve as football players as we go. Probably if you look, you know, Wanye was here during the spring. You know, Warren Burrell was here during the spring and got to participate in all the practices. Quavaris Crouch was here in the spring, but he played inside linebacker based off depth issues and trying to figure out a way to get our best 11 on the field. We moved him to outside linebacker. But it helps to get those extra 15 practices, and I think it showed with those guys. Eric Gray was here. He didn't participate in practice, but he got the mental reps. So he's a little bit further along. Some of the other guys that wasn't here during the spring, you can see it's you know, it's about that time because of those 15 extra practices where we're at in the season. Some of these other guys will start being able to contribute, which will provide us some depth.
Stephen, Patrick, and Blake.
I think you said, even going back to the opening game, that everybody has to raise their level, and it kind of starts with you being the head coach. Just how would you evaluate what you've done the first couple weeks of the season, and is there anything that you might need to do differently or anything you're looking to change?
Yeah, absolutely. I think start with just defensively, you know. We had 7 starters coming back from last year's defense, which wasn't a very good defense, right? Well, we lose Emmett Gooden, we lose Daniel Batuli, Balin Buchanan, and Bryce Thompson. Now we're down to 3 guys, right? So there's tons of inexperience on that side of the ball. So the first thing we tried to do, and we kind of lost the guys later on in fall camp. Wasn't like we lost them early on. So, you know, probably in the first game, like I said, didn't carry enough weapons into the game, you know. When I say weapons, I'm talking about things that you can call to be aggressive, to put the other team on their heels. One of the reasons we didn't do that is because we knew we couldn't execute it, you know. Exactly right. But I felt like in that game, especially defensively, we played on our heels. That's never how I've ever coached. It's never how we call games around here. It's not how we practice anything that we do. So in this game, we went the other way and said, you know what, we probably ain't going to get some of this stuff right, but we're going to be aggressive. We're going to try to throw marbles at the quarterback and the running backs and give our kids a chance and call the game aggressively. I feel like that helped our guys defensively. I think it showed Saturday. You know, you always go back and look, you know, what could you do better? For me, the first thing I'm saying is the last play, the long pass play. Hey, could I call timeout before the ball was snapped? I'm always trying to look and see how can I improve to make sure that we get it right. You know, there's no doubt we went for it 3 times on 4th down. One of them we scored a touchdown. 2 others we didn't. You got 4th and a foot to win the game, in my opinion. We're at a point in our program where we want to make sure that we're trying to create an identity, that we're coming out there to win football games. And, you know, we got to get those. We got to get 4th and a foot twice, and we didn't. So I think everybody, and I always do it, and we'll continue to do it, but I think everybody in our program, we have to look in the mirror and see what can we do to get better, and everybody's doing that.
Patrick, then Blake, then Patrick Murray.
Jeremy, you mentioned the offensive line playing a better game. What did you like about what they did when you went back and watched it? And are you guys starting to see any separation in terms of individuals that you are hoping to see from these first 2 games?
Well, we ran the ball better offensively, you know, but if you look at it, we have kind of who we feel like. We had 1 O-lineman we felt like rated a winner, you know. So we have a long ways to go to get to where we need to be. And there's lots of inconsistencies there, and we've got to continue to work hard to develop there. You know, if you look at it, lots of times in the run game we had a hat for a hat, okay? So if they got 4 guys, we got 4 guys to block 4 guys. Sometimes we gained 5 yards, sometimes we gained 7, sometimes we gained 10, sometimes we lost 1 or 2 yards when we got 1 guy to block everybody, right? You know, there's lots of times when they snapped the ball, they had 3 guys to block 4, okay? Sometimes they didn't gain any yards, all right? But as the game went, sometimes they gained 3, 4, 5, and 6. okay, and they got 3 to block 4. So we've got to improve on both sides of the ball.
Jeremy, when Jarrett's shoe came off, it looked like Brian Maurer was the guy on the field. What's he done to gain the edge at that spot as backup? And then,
well, he's not the backup. First of all,
okay.
He was the guy that saw that the quarterback came out, so he ran out on the field, which I kind of liked, you know. So we didn't tell anybody to go in or come out, but he did run out on the field. I noticed that as I was coming off the field.
Interesting. Okay. I guess follow-up to that then, is it important to get somebody other than Jarrett some snaps, some experience maybe this week?
Well, it's been important the entire time. The opportunity has not presented itself. You know, we said in the first game that, in the second game, that if the opportunity presented itself, we wanted to put one or both quarterbacks in the game. We've got to create a backup quarterback. And, you know, there's no doubt, not if you've been around our program for the last 6 months, who the best quarterback on our team is, okay? But there's also no doubt that, you know, sometimes when you get kind of under the lights a little bit, it's interesting to see how guys play, you know, and we got to get both of these guys live game opportunities so we can see.
Patrick Murray and West.
Jeremy, you talked about your true character showing in tough times. I guess just what have you learned about yourself and about your team these last couple of weeks?
Well, I know myself. I've been myself for a long time. We're not going to flinch. We're going to keep working. That's what we do, right? So the men on our staff, the same way. You know, got a strong group of coaches, okay, that know how to win. Okay, we've been there. We've done it. We know what it takes. All right. We got to share our knowledge with our players. We got to figure out why maybe we grade 72% instead of 88%. Okay, why, you know, we play a technique the right way for 3 or 4 plays and then we don't play the technique right for a play. We got to figure that out. We've got to share our knowledge with our players. We got to get them to be at their best. You know, so and our guys will, and we got to continue to do that. It's a growing process, you know. But to me, I want to see how much we improve from this past week to this next week. Okay, that to me, that's a goal for this week. If we can do it again, okay. And I said, you know, if we do that, the wins and losses will take care of itself. I truly believe that.
West and Austin and Gene.
Jeremy, you talked about wanting to have more depth at the middle linebacker spot or inside linebacker spot and all those places. Is Daniel Batuli any closer to being ready to go this week? And if he's not, how are you able to sort of create more depth there? Is it just get guys like Banks ready, or how do you go about that?
There is nobody else, Wes. All right, so, you know, Saturday we dressed 2 scholarship tailbacks that were going to be able to play, and I guess 4 inside linebackers. So we're very thin at certain positions, and we've been that way. If we get a couple injuries there, we've had to bounce guys back and forth just to give us an opportunity. So, you know, hopefully Daniel will be able to take some reps this week. Like I said, he was close last week. You know, Daniel had a really good spring, and he was having a really good fall camp. But when he comes back, because he's missed 16 days of practice, it ain't going to be like he just, you know, where he left off. It's going to take a little bit to get him back going, to make sure he's in the right shape, condition. So, and you can't just walk out there from not practicing and start practicing every day like, you know, like you hadn't missed anything. So, but we should be able to get him back some this week.
Coach, you talk about players bouncing around. Latrell Bumpus was one. What's he done to kind of buy into finally being a defensive lineman, and what's he do well for you guys?
You know, I thought there was 2 guys on our defense this week that, you know, really have just try to do what the coaches ask them to do. They don't try to do anything else. You know, I feel like I think Latrell's one. I think Theo Jackson's another guy. You know, you know, if you tell them to do it a certain way, that's what they try to do. They don't, They don't ask any questions. They just go and try to do it. And you know, and I think it's why both of them actually played pretty good in this game. You know, and you know, we'll get more and more guys that buy into doing that. You know, and it's not. Hey, I'm gonna tell you this: when I woke up Saturday morning, I had it in my mindset, right, that I'm going to do everything I can to give our team to be the best they can possibly be. The kids that made mistakes on Saturday, okay, which was everybody on our team, right? We all do, coaches too, right? Nobody woke up and said, hey, I'm going to make sure I mess this up. Everybody has the right intentions, right? So, but you got to create the right habits, and I think both of those guys are two guys that are very good examples of guys that have really tried to do exactly what we've asked them to do. Latrell Bumpus, when we started fall camp, he was fourth team. He's fourth team, okay? He's a guy that plays on kickoff return. He's a guy that helps us on the punt team. So we got to get more guys doing things like Latrell and Theo.
Gene and then Brent.
You know, you talk a lot about inconsistency and growth and those things. How much of that growth can come from practice and practicing the right way, and how much of it will just have to come from game experience for some of these younger players?
Well, I think you know, if you practice the right way, you can develop the right habits at practice. That's what we're trying to do. The consistencies, you know. I mean, look at our football team, especially defensively. Okay. You know, Darryl Taylor, Daniel Batuli's not been out there. You know, in the DBs, Balin Buchanan has not been out there. You got Nigel Warrior, Theo Jack. There's not a lot of older guys on defense. A lot of youth. So these guys are they're coming into a program. You know, probably a little bit overwhelmed a little bit, trying to figure out exactly how coach wants it done, learning what they're supposed to do, also learning how to practice, the standard, the expectations, and then they got to learn what an opponent does. So we're going to get better at that every week. Every week, the game's going to slow down to them. We're going to start creating a little more depth, a little bit more competition. It's going to make us a better football team defensively. You know, same thing offensively. We got some very good young prospects on offense, and they're going to continue as we go through this season to do it the right way, to work at practice, to create the right habits, and we're going to improve. We're going to improve on both sides of the ball. Problem is, so's everybody else, right? You know, everybody else is doing the same thing that we're doing. Hey, maybe based off age, they're a little further along, all right, and maybe don't have as far as they can go. We got a long ways. We got a long ways till we can hit our ceiling based off our football team. But we've got to work hard every week to continue to get there.
Last question, Brian.
Coach, you said after the game talking about BYU's big back and kind of how they willed their in the double overtime to the touchdown. You're 1 of 5 on 4th down conversions in short yardage situations. With what you have to work with personnel-wise, what's the key for this offense to become an offense that can convert in those critical situations, 3rd and short, 4th and short?
Well, just like Saturday, you know, we run belly dive right there, and our right guard gets beat across his face when he knows the ball's running to the left. You know, hey, maybe this guy might be better than me, maybe he's bigger than stronger than me, but if I'm the right guard, I'm going to take my left foot and put it on the center's right foot where there is no A gap, okay, where the guy can't beat me across my face, you know, because we got the other guys blocked right there, you know. Or maybe the next time when we, you know, I think there's 6 minutes left in the game, we run the exact same call where we kind of run the man around, which, hey, on 4th and 1 or 4th and a foot, hey, maybe the Z around's not the best call, right? But kind of set it with our personnel, with who we are and who they are. You know, I think it's a pretty good call. We ran it earlier in the game and gained 11 yards on it against the exact same call that BYU had called, you know, but we had a couple of guys that didn't block it the same way, you know, so, you know, they blocked it the right way the first time, and then you get the exact same look, and we don't do it the right way the second time. Why is that? That's obviously us as coaches. We got to figure out why the inconsistency. That's why we're 0-2 instead of 2-0, because we have these issues.
Thank you, Coach. Thank you.